Blutbad.
Hello and welcome back to another behind-the-scenes toy photography video. This week I'll show you how I set the stage for this shot, which I've called the Modal Nodes. I'll also show you how I edited the image in Photoshop. I used close to 50 figures for this shot, but the two most important were Figrin and Nalan Cheel. These are the only two Modal Nodes band members that have official Black Series releases, but between them both they come with all the band's instruments as accessories. Since all the band members look identical, you can just army build the whole set. I began my setup by laying down a concrete slab as my ground surface and setting up my lighting. I used a light box as the stage itself so I could get some cool bottom lighting for the band. Next, I placed some PVC piping around the perimeter which would act as a support for my stage curtains. The curtains are actual curtains from my living room. After that, I placed my subjects. I have been obsessed with Figrin and the Modal Nodes ever since I watched A New Hope in the early 90s. My babysitter had Betamax recordings of the unaltered original trilogy from TV, complete with commercials, that I just rewound over and over again. I also convinced my dad to mail order the 1/18th scale band toys from Star Wars Insider in the late 90s, so I was beyond stoked when Hasbro released Black Series versions. This photo has been 30 years in the making. With the band set up, I added my audience. There are quite a few figures in the audience, and with not enough figure stands for all of them, I opted to balance them all as best I could. This proved to be a terrible decision as I knocked over the whole audience no fewer than 10 times. There were a few times I almost gave up and settled on an inferior exposure, but I persevered until I could get the shot exactly how I wanted. Lastly, I added some speakers to the side of the stage. These were just regular old Logitech computer speakers. While I had the camera's exposure open, I sprayed in some canned atmosphere. I wanted the kind of hazy vibe that all the best concerts have in real life. So here's my starting image. I started my edit by throwing on a few adjustment layers and making some tweaks to the perspective. I like my symmetry to be precise, which can be tricky to achieve in camera since the viewfinder is so small. Sometimes I have to do it in Photoshop. Next, I cropped the image and used the healing brush tool and content aware fill to remove all the articulation joints on my figures. After adding a vignette, I used the dodge tool to lighten up the faces of the band. Lastly, I painted in some special effects like a spotlight over Figrin head and some extra haze near the top of the shot. So once again, here's my starting image, and here's where I ended up. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button and checking me out on Instagram. Thanks, and until next time.